Let's talk about the next section in which we deal with sending push notifications. So till now what we did was we developed an application which lists the categories, then we can subscribe to that categories. But what we want to do is when you add a new event, right? When a new event is added, I want to go and notify back to the user who has subscribed to that category saying a new event has been added for this particular category, right? So just go through some of the details of push notification services, right? So if you look at Windows Phone 8 in particular and look at Windows 8, one of the beauties of these operating systems is that they provide you live tiles. So even if your application is not running, right, you can inform the user, you can keep the user updated on things that are happening at the back end, right? So for example, if it's a news application, even if the application has not been launched, the user has not started the application, you can inform him of the the latest updates that are happening, right? Some breaking news. And push notifications can be an excellent way of using that because it's server generated, right? So what are the benefits of push notifications? Number one, it's server generated, so it's server initiated. You at the back end decide, this piece of information is relevant to this particular user or this set of users, and then I'm going to send it to them, and you can send it to across devices, right? Keep background scenarios, as I mentioned, like for example, breaking news, sending notifications. For example, if it's a banking application, you want to send your secure PIN to the user, you can use that for that purpose. So anything that you want to start from a server and then send it back to the user as a push notifications are a good option. Then you have like for example, when I talk about Windows Phone and Windows 8 to users, and when I show them the start screen, the first question they ask, my goodness, this is going to drain my battery, it's always running. And I tell them, no, it's not running. Your application is not running. It's just the tiles that are being updated, right? And this is one of the reasons why push notifications can be beneficial, because you don't have to keep the application running to update the tiles, right? You send them from the server backend, it gets updated, and it keeps, because what it does is it keeps, you can have like 4 or 5 icons or tiles that you can rotate in the application, and the push notification can send these down to the client, and then the client will just rotate through these, so it does not consume much of battery, right? And then last is, which ties on to the previous point, is you do not have to keep your application running. So you don't have to have background tasks which continuously go and pull the backend for information. Don't have to consume battery by just polling the backend for data, right? Well,
the notification is in the backend, right?
So the notification happens from the backend, and I will walk you through the whole process. It happens from the backend and is sent to the client.
It's like notification services or a notification SQL server, like feature notification.
I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah. But think of it as an SMS. Okay? So it's something that's generated on the server and is sent down to you on the client, and then you act on it. Okay? I don't know if this is clear for you. I can barely read it myself. Okay. So when you talk about notifications, there are mainly 3 kinds of notifications. You have raw notifications, you have toast notifications, and you have tile notifications, right? Raw notification is a payload that you create, which your application understands. So it can be custom data, right? It can be free form. So let's take for the example of WhatsApp, right? It takes a custom payload, and when somebody sends you a message, it takes that message and it sends it to you. It's a custom data that is being sent, right? So it could be something similar. It's something specific to your application that your application understands. And you take that and then you process it, right? But your application needs to be running for the raw data to be handled. Then you have something called toast notifications. So going back to the example of the SMS message, if you receive an SMS message, you usually receive it on the top of your mobile, right? You click on it, the application opens. That's a toast notification. Right? So you can send a toast notification to the user with parameters, and then the application take those parameters and act upon it. And then you have tile notifications. You can update your tiles. Right? You can update the content of the tiles. So if you look at the Windows Phone 8, we have 3 different types of tiles. Right? Anybody can tell me what are those? Come on, you attended the last session. No, you have 3 types of tiles. So you have got the iconic tiles, and then you have got the flip tile, right? And the third is the image tiles, right? You have those 9 images rotating. So you have 3 different types of tiles. So if you take the example of the iconic tile, you have the text, you have the icon, you have the title. You can update all this information from a push notification, right? So for example, you have received an email, right? You don't need to bring out the whole email. You can just send a push notification increasing the counter, and then you click on that icon, then you can go and read that, open that email client, and then read the client does not need to be open all the time. So you can update your UI, you can update your tile with content from the backend. Okay? So how does this work? You've got your phone, right? And it needs to be push enabled. So you need to enable that application for push notifications. And then you have a push notification service that you're going to use to call into the push notification server. So you create an endpoint, right? You can, what is known as a channel URI. This identifies your application and your device to which this push notification is going to be sent to, right? So it's a unique identifier for your application and device. So you take that and you store it somewhere. So where do you store that? You probably store it onto the cloud, right? Or it could be your server. You need to store it somewhere in the cloud, right? And then at some point of time, that backend service of yours, your application, will decide to send a push notification out, right? And this could be on different.
How can I know that this URL is for some person?
It's difficult to know. But you could know, because if you are, like for example, I will show you when I'm going to log, right? I'm going to log the user's ID.
When I will use this URI
Yes.
to send the notification.
Yes.
So suppose I want to send the notification for Azure. How I know this?
So you have a user ID associated with it. Okay, we will do that, right? So we will do that. We will identify the users who we need to send to, and we will send it to only those specific users or those category of users. So it's up to you to design it. But from a channel URI perspective, it's unique to that device, that application, right? That device, that application, it does not identify the user in the channel URI. So you cannot look at the URI and say this belongs to Fazan.
Like WhatsApp is using the mobile number.
It could use the mobile number as your unique identifier, right? So you need to look at the channel URI. You need to look at the user ID and then say, okay, this is the user ID, and I'm going to send this notification to these channel URIs. Right? So what happens is, here at the back end, something happens which will trigger the push notifications. And then the server is going to send a push notification out to the push notification server. So it's going to go not to your client, it's going to go out to push notification server and say, this is a list of people I want you to go out and send push notifications to. Right? So now the push notification server understands these channel URIs. It has a linkage back to the channel URI. So it's going to look at those channel URIs and it's going to send a push notification to them. Clear? Is this process clear? Any questions on this? No? So that sort of closes the loop when you get the push notification. So usually we use the push notification to update the tile templates, right? So okay. So if you look using push notifications, keep in mind that you can have 30 applications that can subscribe to the push notification services from Windows Phone 8, right? So only 30 applications can subscribe to Windows Phone 8 push notifications, and there is a limit also. You can have up to 500 push notifications. If you see here, 500 push notifications subscriptions per day. Come again? What it means that I can have 30 applications that subscribe, or 30 endpoints, 13 channel URIs that I can create from each phone.
Yeah, if the user downloaded more than that,
it will not work. Okay? So you have a limit of 30.
For each software for the phone?
For the phone. So usually you will create one channel subscription per phone, right? You'll create usually one channel subscription per phone.
For me, the user, the end user, maybe he will download more than 30 programs that will use push.
But do all the programs need push notifications? Not necessarily.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So you have a limit of 30. You don't go beyond that.
It's for the user.
Each user. Okay. From your perspective, if you're building the application, you can have 500 push notification subscriptions per day. Right? So you can send push notifications to 500 subscriptions per day. Not more than that. So if you have like a database of 1,000 people and you want to send it to 1,000 people, then you need to authenticate your, and this is for anonymous, unauthenticated web service calls. You need to authenticate your service and then you can send to more. Okay? So let's look at the demo. Let's continue with our application and build on top of this and try to send push notification to our application. So the last we did was we created a subscription, right, where we took the user's choice of category and updated into the user category table. Now I want to create a mechanism where a new event is added. I want to notify the users who have subscribed for this category that a new event has happened, right? So how do you do that? For that, if I look at my data model, I have created a class called channel. So if you look at my data model, I have created a class called channel, right? And this class has a unique identifier. It has a device type. So am I sending this from a Windows Phone 8? I'm sending from an iOS device. Am I sending this from a Windows Phone 8 device or a Windows 7.5 device? So I'm going to identify the type of device that I'm, registering from. And then I have a channel URI. This is my unique identifier for that application. And then also I have something called the installation ID and the user ID. Now, when you're working with notifications, these notifications expire, right? They have a time to live, and after some time they expire. And what will happen is, the previous one would still be alive and your new one would be generated for you. So if you just keep adding, it might happen that you are receiving 2 push notifications for the same event, right? Clear? No? No. Think of it as a session, right? So you have a session for which this push notification lives, after which it's going to expire and a new session is going to be generated for you. But there might be an overlap between the 2 sessions, right? So the old session, let's take an example. We have session A and session B. Session A was created at 10 a.m. in the morning and is expected to expire at 11:15, right? But then a new session was created at 11 o'clock and expected to expire at 12:15. But then there is an overlap of that 15 minutes between these 2 sessions. They are both alive at the same time. Even when you request for a channel URI, you'll be given a new channel URI. But the old one that you have stored with yourself is still alive. So when you're sending push notifications out and you have both of these in your log, then you'll be sending 2 more push notifications to the client. Clear? So what you need to do is you need to uniquely identify the device from which this is coming, right? Not just the user, the device. Why? Because like for Windows 8, you could have multiple users on that device. So the channel URI sort of gives us the uniqueness between a user and the application and the device, right? But I need to uniquely identify the device so that I can take this and I can update the channel URI. So if I have an entry of this device in my channel URI table and am I receiving a new one, then instead of creating a record, I'm going to just update it. Clear? No.
So if I make a login, I have a certification from to the same certification in both devices. Same 2 sessions, both devices.
No, I'm talking about one device, one application is considered as one channel URI. It's one session. So
if I make login like in Twitter, I have a certification in 2 devices. What's this case?
So you have 2 different sessions, 2 channel URIs. So as I said, it's device and application specific, right? So I have a phone, or let's say I have, let's take the example of Windows 8, right? I have a tablet and I have the same application installed there. And I have a desktop and have the same application installed there. But there are 2 different instances. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about the same tablet, same application. You are going to have, what happens is you go, if you remember that chart, you go to push notification services and say, give me a channel URI, right? That channel URI at some point of time is going to expire. And a new channel URI will be given to you. But it may happen that there is an overlap between the 2 URIs. So both of them might be alive at the same time. They might not just, cut and give you a new one. Right? So there may be an overlap. Now you need to be smart in your application. When you're putting that log, you need to identify uniquely that device and say, for this device, right, and this user, if I'm getting a new channel URI, then just update it. Don't create a new record. Okay? This is something we have not done in the application just to keep the code simple for you to understand. But once you're developing, you have to keep that in mind. Okay? And there are different ways of getting a unique ID on the device. What I have done here on the phone is I am creating a GUID, right? And I'm storing it into the application. You could use, like for example, on the Windows 8, you can go to the system API and ask for a hardware ID, and it'll give you a unique hardware ID for that device, right? So there are different ways of doing it. So I have this, but I do not have a data table for this yet, right? I don't have a data table for this. So I'm going to show you how you can create a structure in the database for a class that you have. So this is the dynamic schema creation we talked about. But for that, at least I need to do one thing, which is go back here, in here, and sorry, not here. I'm going to create a new table called channel, okay, and say save. So I have this channel created, but if you look at the schema, it just has an ID there, nothing more, right? So this is what we are going to work with, the new channel URI. Now what I want to do is, I want to, like I created a reference for the mobile service and my data context, I want to create a static reference in the app class. So I'm going to open my app class. And in here, I'm going to bring this in. So I'm creating a static reference for this channel called current channel in my app class. Fine. And then when I'm initializing my application, I need to register the channel. Okay, so when my application starts up, once I have authenticated myself, I have a user ID, right? Then I want to go and take a channel and I want to record that channel for that user to the push notification service. So if you see here, as I told you, I'm creating a unique identifier for my device, right? So I'm creating a GUID and I'm storing it in the application settings. So I'm checking here if there is no reference to this GUID in the app settings, then I'm creating a new GUID and I'm storing this in the app settings. So this now is a unique identifier for my application on that device, right? And then I check for the channel. If I don't find it, then I'm going to request a new HTTP notification channel, right? And I'm going to bind it to my shell tile. And then I'm going to create a new channel URI. Okay, this is my class, and I'm going to add this to the table. Now right now, if you remember, we do not have the structure of the table. Okay, I need to add one more thing in here, which is the user ID. Okay, so I'm getting the user ID for the current user and adding it to the channel class, and I'm going to take that object and I'm going to send it across the wire to the mobile services to create a new record, right? So let's run this and see what happens. Okay. The network has started dying on us. Okay, let me try something different. Okay, so just so now it's throwing an error. And now can anybody tell me why it's throwing an error? No. Come again? No. Come on, think. What does it say? Unauthorized access exception. Write permission where? No. If you remember, I told you that when you are building push notification applications, you need to enable that capability in your application, right? So you did not tell the Windows Phone that your application requires this capability. So you are trying to access this capability from code without telling the phone that you require this capability. Okay? So if you go back to your manifest, go into capabilities, and then you say enable push notifications. Right? So keep this in mind. You will otherwise, break your head on the wall saying, this should work, but it's not working. So let's build this and then redeploy. So now I've logged in. Different. No, it should automatically create it for me. So I have the channel URI, device type, ID should be 0, installation ID should be okay. This should work fine. Okay. So now, if I go back here and say browse, there you go. Okay. Come again. Something happened there. Yeah, something went wrong in that code and it did not catch the user ID or something. It did not wait enough. So anyway, right now we have the channel URI, I have the user ID, right, and I have the device type. right? Now what I want to do is when I insert an event, right? When I insert an event, I want to go and inform the user, right, that a new event has occurred. And the way you would do that is, come again? So right now every time it's going to be inserted again because I am not doing any validation on the back end, right? So I'm just, so if, yeah, in your insert script here, right, you need to check for the, not the user ID, you would be checking for, depending upon what application it is. Like for example, if it is a phone, it's going to be a single device, right? If it's a Windows 8, then probably you'll have, so it depends upon how you want to check. So in most cases, you will do a check on the installation ID, and if it is existing, then you just update the URI. If it is not, then you will create a new URI. Okay. In our case, we are just blinding, pushing the data to the table. Okay. So now we are on the channel table. Let's go back to the events table. And let's go to the insert script. Now what I want to do is, whenever I insert a record here, I want to go and check the users who have registered for a notification, right, and inform them. Clear? So the way you do that is through this piece of code. So I'm going to get rid of this and just paste. Okay, so what I'm doing here is on the insert, I get the item that is being inserted, right? And the user and the request object, right? I'm saying go ahead and execute the request. And once you have succeeded, right? So I'm saying when it succeeds, come back and tell me. So when you go and enter that record in the table, I'm creating an inline function and saying, come and tell me when you have succeeded. So you have this criteria called success, right? You could also have, so if for example in here, I could have one for error, and I could create another function here, and I could do something here, right? So right now, what I'm doing is I'm just checking on success. And once this insertion is successful, push notifications are usually not guaranteed to be delivered, right? So I do not want to hold that response back to the user. So I will send a response request.respond telling the user that everything is fine. But I will still continue processing the server logic. Yeah? So what I do is I call a function called send notifications, right? Which I have created here below. So it's a new function that I created. It's called send notification, and I am passing it the item that is being inserted. Right? And I have the select statement. Let me just bring this out here into the SQL. So this is going to go and give me a distinct record of all the channel URIs that have been registered and the users who have registered them, right? So I'm looking at the user category table, right? I'm looking at the user category table and I'm looking at the channel notification table and I'm mapping them user to user. Okay, let me go here. So the user category has two columns, the category ID and the user ID, right? So I have right now subscribed to two of these categories, clear? Right? Yeah. And then I have this channel table which is recording my channel URI and then the user against whom this URI is being registered. So I'm mapping between these two tables using the user ID. Okay, so what do I get? I get a list of users who want to be notified and then their channel URIs. Clear? So doing that join, I get a list of users who want to be notified and their channel URIs, right? So this is what this select statement is giving you. So I'm asking for the channel URI and I'm asking for the device type. But then I also want to ensure, right, that this notification goes to those people who are interested in this particular type of event, right? Because I registered for two types of events, right? Event type 1, event type 2. But what if this event is of event type 3? I don't want to be notified, right? So here I put a category ID and I'm taking the event item that was inserted and taking the category ID from there and passing it to this as a parameter. Clear? So this is basically what I am doing in here. And if you see the item that was inserted, I'm taking that and I'm taking the category ID and I'm passing that as a parameter. So I'm calling the MS SQL object. I'm saying run this query. When this query is successful, give me back the results. So I'm getting a list of channel URIs and I'm getting a list of device types. Then what I can do is I can run this map function, which is something similar to the link in .NET. Right, the link functionality. I am running a query in line which says takes these results, okay, and give me only those which are for Windows Phone 8 devices. Okay, so run a query and filter for me the ones which are Windows Phone 8 devices and return to me the channel URI. Right? Now why I need to do this is each of these, okay, each of these has a different push notification service. So each device has a different push notification service. iOS has a different push notification service. Windows Phone 8 has a different push notification service, and Windows 8 has a different push notification service. So I will do this filtration, right, 3 times in my code. Right? So once I will do it for Windows Phone 8 devices, one I will do it for Windows 8 devices, and one for iOS devices. And tomorrow when we add the functionality for Android, then you'll come and add something for Android as well. Right? So then I call out into the push object from the server, and I say send a flip tile. So I'm calling into the MPNS object and saying send a flip tile to all the channels that are in this list, and this is going to be the URI that you send it to. Okay? Oh, sorry, this is the title you will send to. So this is the list of URIs that you're going to send to, and this is the text you're going to set in the tile. This is, you're going to change the title of the tile and send this update. Clear? So let's save this. And then on the client, I need to go in and add the event. Right? So what we'll do is, if you remember, we created 2 of those buttons in the main page. We'll use the second one to add the event. So we'll say this dot navigation service dot navigate is a new URI. Come again. Just a second, just let me take this piece. Hello. Hello. Assalamualaikum. You want me to call back? Can I call back later? Can I call back later? I didn't know why you called back. That's why. So we create a new page. We call it create event.xaml, and we say URI kind.relative. Okay, so you were saying something. Right.
And I want to send the notification to the users from that type, from that application.
Yes, you can.
But can I use these services?
Yes.
I can.
You can. So, for example, my customer will be Windows Phone application users. Okay, it cannot be WPF. It cannot be.
Yes, I know that.
Yes.
The client must be
the client.
I'm the owner.
Yeah. So you as an owner, let's say for example, you are on a help desk. Okay, and you have a web application. You are sitting and you are creating a trouble ticket, and then you go and you assign a user to that trouble ticket. But you want to send him a push notification when the application executes. Yes, you can do that. So you basically tie back to from the client, you tie back to the web service, the mobile service, and ask it to send the push notification.
I can consume this service from any other type of application.
Yes, because I think there is a REST API available that you can tap into. So this is at the end all REST. You might not have a native, you could have a Windows 8 client as such, which is doing your the backend processing, right? And that could initiate. So then you get the native client DLLs for mobile services. Okay? It's freezing in here. So let's go and create that page. And in here, we'll keep it simple. We just put a button. We give it a name. We call it button create. And then we have a click handler. And then we have content. Okay, so I have this, double click, go here, and in here what I want to do is I want to insert that record, right? I want to create that event. So I'm not going to create a UI, I'm just going to go and grab the okay, so I'm creating a new event, I'm passing it the properties, right? And I'm just going to go and use the mobile services to insert that event. And using that should take care of this. And then okay. So far so good. Let's rebuild this application. Let's deploy it. Okay. Something is going wrong here. Let's run this and see what's happening. Okay, so this register does. Okay, so we are okay. What I want to do now is I want to go here and I want to pin this to my start screen. And can you see the text that is there? Right? When we run our event, it's going to change. Right? So let's launch this application again. And then when I click on this, I will create an event. And if you go back to browse, I have a new event created now, right? It's just category ID 1. And if I go back to my application, you see here, I got a push notification from the server saying that a new event was created. It's the same thing. Instead of sending a flip tile, you send a toast notification. So what I sent was, I did not send a toast notification. I sent a flip tile. Yeah, so the call that I made, the notification I sent was a flip tile. So I said, go and update the tile. That's it.
I don't have to write a code to listen to the notification and
no, nothing. It's going to be taken care by the operating system itself. You, from your application, don't need to do anything. Right? So that's the whole beauty of it. This is, I said. So you can now go and the tile can flip. You can create.
The number that.
You can put numbers, you can put so many other things, right? So you decide what you want to put in there and then it's going to update. Any questions on this? Clear as mud? No, now's your time. If there's any confusion, ask. This is the right time. Okay? It needs practice, yes. You need to get your hands dirty. Yeah. Come again?
I want to handle a code to, when I press to this event, I go to another page or make any code. How can I
receive the notification? Yes. This is the toast notification.
This is the toast notification. So
when I press in this event, I want to file a code.
When you receive,
I have received now.
Yes.
No, you did not receive a notification. You received a tile notification. So your application is not aware of anything. Your application could not even be running. Okay. Now since it's the same, I can deploy this to my device and I can create a new event and it will come here.
And this is just for notification, just information?
Yes.
Not to make update, go to something, and if I want to make update to my application,
then you could send a raw notification or you can send a toast notification.
There I can write a notification code that listen if you receive.
Yeah, so when you so if your application is running, an event will be fired, right? And you can then handle that in your code. Okay. If you go to the Windows Phone 8, there are a lot of tutorials on or sample SDKs that you can find on the toast notifications, which talk about that. There's also a hands-on lab that walks you through this. Okay. So the push notifications service, the one that I have used just to clarify, is to go and update the tile, nothing more, right? So going back to the scenario of the news application, right? If there is a breaking news, rather than, because what happens is usually those toast notifications are irritating. You know? Those toast notifications are irritating because what happens is they go ping, 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 ping. Sometimes middle of the night you get a notification and what happened? Nothing. Something happened somewhere in the world. I don't care. So what happens usually is you then go and turn off those notifications, right? So using push notifications, especially on the tiles just, you know, they keep updating and the user can see visually, you know, probably something is happening, you know, rather than you going and annoying the user, unless it is something very important that you want to really send a toast notification for, it's better not to send toast notifications. Right? Like for example, you could have a news application and you send toast notifications only for some major crises that are happening. You know? Something very important. Not for every top headline you keep sending a toast notification to. It starts getting irritating. Imagine I have 10, 15 applications and everybody starts sending me a toast notification. It's going to be crazy. So you have to be conservative because this is something that the user can go and turn off in the application. You can say, I am not interested in toast notification, and then it defeats the purpose, the effort that you made to send. So live tiles is a better way of doing that. So in new information, you can, you know, for example, something happened. You can go and update the tile with a new picture. So if you see visually something has happened, I click on the application and go and read that news article, rather than, you know, just pinging me with a toast notification, right? This is your last chance for push notifications before you move on. Any questions? No? Okay. So let me stop this. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. So the next section I want to talk about is how do you share code between Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. Right? As I told you, both of them now are built on the same Windows 8 kernel. So in practicality, you should be able to share the code. Right? So how do you do that? So in terms of a developer opportunity, it's a huge opportunity. In terms of the devices that are going to be available, especially with Windows 8, it's going to be on the desktop, it's going to be on the tablets, it's going to be on, you know, laptops. It's a huge potential for people. It's a huge reach. People who start using the new Windows 8 are going to have, or who are going to buy the new PCs are going to have Windows 8 pre-installed, right? So it's a huge potential for developers to reach, but it's the same time it's a headache. You have to manage two code bases. Right, one for Windows 8 and one for Windows Phone 8. So how, as a developer, I can streamline development and sort of reuse the code that I have. In terms of reach, as I said, it's a huge potential. We have 191 markets that are open to developers. People can download in their local currency, buy applications. Right? So it's an enormous reach, enormous opportunity for developers to make money. In terms of device penetration, Microsoft's strategy is, you know, unification across the three platforms. So if you look at the UI for Xbox, you look at the UI for Windows Phone 8, you look at the UI for Windows 8, it has a consistency, right? So So people feel comfortable when they use these devices. There is no new learning experience on these devices. If you're used to phone, then the transition to Windows 8 becomes easier. So with that, we are on a path to convergence, right? It's already started. We are not there 100%, but with the kernel being the same on Windows Phone 8 and Windows 8, that convergence between the platforms has started, right? But it does not become 100%. We need to manage these two code sets. Now, if you look at Windows 7.5 in terms of development, right, you predominantly had .NET and then you had C# and VB. So you developed in XAML, in C# or VB, right? When Windows Phone 8 came along, we introduced you to the Windows Phone runtime, WinPRT, and you can use C#, VB, and then you can use C++ also now on Windows Phone 8. So huge opportunity for you. And then you can also use Direct3D, some of the Win32.com APIs from Windows Phone itself. That means that you can have native game development, better user experience on the gaming using these native libraries. If you look at the APIs, right? On the left-hand side, you have C# and VB. On the middle tier, you have C#, VB, and C++. And on the right, you have C++. So majority of these, if you see, you can use across the different languages. So you can choose to program in C# or VB or C++, and you have access to all these libraries from the different platforms. So how do I, if I'm creating a XAML application, right, how do I share my code so that it is less tedious for me when I'm developing on the two different platforms? And the starting point of this should be thinking of segregation of concerns. So think about model view model patterns, where you're segregating the UI from the business logic. Okay? So the UI is independent of the view model and the model. So if you make changes to the backend model, it does not affect your UI. Right? And that way, you can take that model and the view model, and you can put it into a higher class, which is supporting both the platforms. Right? Then you can use something called portable class libraries. Portable class libraries allow you to create a single DLL that could be used between both the projects. So you could use them in Windows 8 and then Windows Phone 8 as well, right? And then that allows you to reuse those libraries across the different platforms. Also, you have something called, I have told them already, I'm freezing over there because it's coming on my head. So what you could also do is you could use some of the common Windows runtime and share them as a link. So right now, if you add an item to a project, you say add an existing item, right? But you can also share it as a link so that it remains intact in its position and you just have a reference to that. It is not copied to your folder, right? So that allows you sharing, and I will show you. And then you have something called the language interop. So if I am writing, and this is, if we did this in the Windows 8 sessions that we did, is if I have a class that I'm writing in C++, but I want to share it with my VB or C# counterparts, we have something known as language projection. So you could compile that as a WinRT component, and that will appear to you in C# or VB.NET as a native library. Right? So it will have the same constructs as a C# or a VB library, but the underlying code is C++. The benefit of this is that there might be some routines that are performance intensive, you know. You need to have high performance on those routines, some maths engines, some calculations. So it's better to use C++ for that rather than C# or VB. So you can have that logic, or you may have existing logic from a previous project that you want to bring in. And you can create it as a WinRT component and use it across your projects, right? So in terms of separation of UI, right now the way we develop it is we have the UI and we have the application logic. But going forward, if you start thinking of, you know, a view model and then the model, we can sort of segregate these into a presentation layer that is specific for the device and the backend logic. So if you see here, I have different applications. One is for the Windows Phone and one is for the store applications, Windows 8. The upper layer is specific to that's the presentation layer. So it's specific to the device, right? You'll have a different presentation layer for Windows 8 and you'll have a different presentation layer for Windows Phone. But the middle logic, right, can be the same between the two applications. And then you'll have some specific code that runs for the device itself. Like for example, when you are doing file I/O, you want to load a picture, you want to save a picture, right? That's device specific I/O and will be specific for the device. You'll have a different call in Windows Phone and you'll have a different call in Windows 8, right? But still you can sort of create a higher level class that then calls into these methods. So if you look at the portable class library, it allows you various options. It's not very clear, but I will show you in the demo. You can choose which platforms you want to target. Do you want to target the runtime 4.5, .NET runtime 4.5? Do you want to create a Windows Phone 8 project? Do you want to create a Windows 8 project? And it's going to look at the libraries that are like in the metrics and see which are common and allow you to use those libraries. So you have one source, one project, and one binary that can be used across the multiple platforms. So if you look at the portable class library and MVVM, you have the startup code and the views which are platform specific, right? Then you have some platform specific functionality. As I said, the IO calls for each device, and then you have the view models and the models which are in the portable class library. Okay. Now, in terms of the Windows runtime, if you look at the left hand side, these are the Windows 8 runtime APIs. There are some 11,000 plus APIs for Windows 8. And then on the left hand side, the blue is the Windows Phone APIs. But then in the intersection of these two are about, I think, 2,000 plus APIs which are common between Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. So there are some APIs in Windows 8 that don't make sense in Windows Phone. But then there are some APIs that were added to Windows Phone specifically, like, you know, speech recognition and messaging and all these, which are not there on the Windows. Right? So this cross section of these APIs is what we are interested in. So you could use these as the common layer when we are doing development and put them in the portable class library so that we can create a single code set that can then be used across the two devices. Clear? And these including networking, proximity, in-app purchase, sensors, you know, all of these. So this is not notifications. So let's stop this. Hello? Hello? So I'm going to create a new project, all right, and let's start with Windows, and we have something called the portable class library, right? And I could call this Riyadh demo.pcl, but I could have a solution which is called Riyadh demo, right? Click OK. Now it's asking me what are the frameworks that I want to target. So in our case, we would basically take Windows Phone 8 and then Windows Store application, right? So now I have a solution in which I can create classes that are specific or are cross between both of the platforms, right? And then I can create a new project for Windows Phone, and this I can call Riyadh demo.windows phone 8. And then I can add a new project for the Windows Store application, and this I can call Riyadh demo.windows 8. Right? So in here, if I have a class, let's call this, rename this, and we'll call it data model, let's say. And in data model, I have, let's say, public string hello world. Right? So now I have a class which is common to both. I can come into the Windows Phone application main page, and in the initialization of this I can come and create a text block. Text is equal to something, give it a name called txt hello world, right? And then in the initialization I can, let's build this project, I can come and say why is it not coming here? Sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong place. We need to do it here in the page example. Say text block, text is equal to blank, name is equal to txt hello world. Go to code behind, then you add references. And then I can say Riyadh demo.pcl.data model dm is equal to new data model, and then we can say txt hello world is equal to dm.hello world. Okay, so now I can have sorry. And if I run this now, there you go. Okay, so you can use the PCL library to do a lot of refactoring and bring in code that is common back to the PCL libraries. Come again?
This is your sample for portal,
Yes.
not MVVM.
Come again?
Not MVVM.
No, not MVVM. Yes. This is just the PCL library, right? This is something I discussed in Jeddah also. If you all are really interested in doing a session on MVVM, we can talk about MVVM, spend a day, and we need more people. So, because you need some maturity when you're developing for MVVM. So not everybody is really interested in MVVM. So probably we could do a session, we can do it back in the office, 15-20 people if you all are interested. If you all are interested, drop me a tweet on Twitter, how many people are interested, and we could do something on MVVM.
Okay, what's your...
It's Fawzan K, I'll just put it up. So that's my Twitter ID. So we'll keep it restricted, maybe 15, 20, 25 people. Yes, I have a dedicated session on MVVM. Okay, and then we can talk about, using MVVM, using the commanding surface, and then how to take it into portable class libraries. Okay. Probably we can take the same example and I can show you, how to do it in the two platforms.
Do you expect to finish supporting Android in license?
I have no idea, but I know the team is working on it.
No estimated time?
They have not given any time. I can check and I can come back to you if you want. If you're really interested, drop me an mail.
What about the database? I asked you about the database. It's free or not?
I'll come back to you on that. I need to go and check the pricing. I don't know. I don't know offhand if it's included or not.
It will be useless if it's not included.
Not necessarily, because many people.
All the function, as I saw in the white service, all the function related to the tables, all of them are crawled on the tables.
Yes.
So if I don't have the tables, I will look.
But it should not be very, even if it is not free, right? It's not very expensive. This cost of the SQL database is not very expensive. Let me just show you. And you can do the calculation yourself. So if you're a typical developer and you want to use mobile services, so you have something called pricing here. And then you can go for, so if you see here you have SQL database. A 1 GB costs me about $10 a month. A month, right? But the benefit of this is that I am getting high availability. So I'm getting 3 instances of the database at any point of time, not just one. So even one instance fails, they will recreate the second instance for me. So you have sort of a high availability in place. So it's not just like a standard database instance that you're getting, from Rackspace or something else. Because if that instance dies, you're responsible for backing up, recreating the whole thing. Okay? So, any questions, gentlemen, on what we discussed today? Did you like what we did? Yes? Are you going to use it?
Sure.
Huh?
When you want to make
Android available?
Android available and the database free.
And the database free, okay.
Is there a certification for this phone?
I'm not sure about Windows Phone, but Windows 8 has a certification in place. 7.5 had a certification. I don't know if they released one for Windows Phone 8 or not. You mean certification as a developer, or so you want to get like MCP or something like that? Yeah, there is one for Windows 8. There was one for Windows 7.5. I'm not sure about. There's one also for Windows Azure. I'm not sure. Yeah. But these are application certifications, the Windows 8 and the Windows Phone. Yes. Yeah. Any questions, gentlemen? No? So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your time here, and hopefully you've learned something nice that you will take back and implement. And please feel free to provide either me the feedback or directly the team the feedback. Use it. This is your chance because the product is evolving, right? So when you use it and you provide feedback to the team, they will be more than happy to incorporate it into the product. Once the product reaches a certain amount of maturity, getting things in becomes difficult. So this is the right time. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.